Hello friends, in this video we'll discuss about API routes. Inside last two videos, we have seen the concept of API controller class as well as API model settings. Back to editor. So to register or create API routes, we need to use api.php. Now question is here where we can find api.php. So we need to go inside routes folder and here we can see api.php. So by the help of this file, we can register our all API routes. Now we need one more file. Just go inside app folder, http controllers API and API controller class. This is our primary controller class from where we can call API methods. So to create our API routes, we need API controller class as well as its methods. Now go inside api.php. First, we need to import this API controller class here. So use API controller. Once we load, go here. And as we know from this API controller methods that this method called addEmployee will hit using post request type. It's because we'll pass form data here. Now next here we have list employee which we will hit using get request type. So we can see that all these methods need a request method type. So according to method type, we need to use our methods. So here, let's say route. For post method, I will use post method. Now here the route will be add-employee. Inside second parameter, we need to pass an array and the controller class name, that is API controller, it's a class, and the method which will be responsible to create employees, that is addEmployee method. So successfully, now we have created our first API route and this is for addEmployee. Now next, let's create for list employee. So to call list employee method, we'll use get request type. So to call get request type, we need to use get method. So route get method, and here the route will be, let's say, list employee, and I will call API controller class, and from API controller class the method we will use called list employees. I will copy and paste it here. So successfully, now we have registered our second route for list employee API. Third one, that is single employee details API. So here this route also need to hit using get request type. So I will use get method, and here let's say single employee. It will call API controller class, and from this controller class we'll use get single employee method. And one more thing, once we hit this get single employee method, we need to pass employee ID into URL. So for that, I need to go inside this route single employee / curly pairs and pass ID as a placeholder value. It means whenever we call this route, we need to pass employee ID. So the fourth route will be something called update employee. Route this update employee method will be hit using put request type. So to call put request type, we need to use put method. So here it will be update employee, not employee, it will be API controller class, and from this controller class we will call update employee. And also when we call this method, we need to pass employee ID into URL. So / curly pairs and ID, it means employee ID as a placeholder value. And the final route we need for our delete employee. So delete employee route, and to call delete employee method we'll use delete request type. So to compete with delete request type, we need to call delete method, and here let's say the route will be called delete employee API controller class, and from API controller class we will call delete employee method. And one more thing, when we call this method, we need to pass employee ID again into URL. So here / curly pairs and pass employee ID into URL. So successfully, now we have configured all the API routes by the help of this file called api.php. And one last thing, which is the most important point of this video, is that whenever we call any API, so by default we need to add API as a prefix. It means that, for example, we have created our add employee API, so to call add employee from Postman or any of the application, the route will be called localhost. After localhost, instead of direct typing our route, that is add employee, we need to pass API as a prefix. So when we call any API from this api.php file, additionally we need to pass a prefix API in front of each route. So this is for add employee. If you're talking about list employee, so here we will have our project URL, API, and after API we need to pass our route, that is list-employee. In the same pattern for single employee, our project URL localhost, then API as a prefix, and here if I copy this route, so after / we can use that. So this is how we can call all the API routes from Postman or any of the application to this api.php. So successfully, this is all about the settings for API routes. So for this video session guys, thank you for watching and have a great day.